days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. 49ers defeat the Tennessee Titans and complete the first part of the mission. That's right. When we talked about this several weeks ago, the first mission was to get to 10 wins. With 10 wins, you had a really good shot at making the playoffs. And that's exactly what the 49ers just got accomplished. And you can say whatever you want about how the game played out. And we're going to get into the game and talk about exactly the ins and outs of how this game looked, what the 49ers allowed, and there's a lot of commentary on the 49ers defense. But I will say this, you have to beat the teams that you play. And right now, the 49ers are 4-0 in their last 4 games. And that has been the mission. Since Brock Purdy's come back, they win games. That's what you have to do if you're going to prepare yourself for the playoffs. And they're getting it done. And now the 49ers are putting themselves in position to potentially continue to compete for that number 1 seed. Next week, Thursday Night Football, Seattle Seahawks versus Los Angeles Rams. It's going to make things be figured out, right? If the Seahawks beat the Rams, the 49ers have one task left to do, and that would be win the rest of their games and defeat the Seahawks to close out the season. They would be the number 1 seed. The Packers just lost. So the 49ers have one team, really, that they don't have any control over, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. That is the one domino left to fall. But they have to win games along the way as well. They have to make sure that they can win every game that's in front of them. And they're going to have some tough ones, right? They're going to have the Indianapolis Colts, the Phillip Rivers team that almost beat the Seattle Seahawks. That game came down to the last second. That was exciting. They're going to have to defeat the Chicago Bears, who have their own big game this week against the Green Bay Packers on Saturday. That's going to be a huge game for them, and that's going to have huge playoff implications as well, as the Packers just fell from 2 to 7. This is something that's very interesting. And then you've got, game for the 49ers on Monday night that they have to win. They have to win out if they're going to put things into perspective. And David says this, huge win. Brock looked like Brock, big game next week. It was a big win. And anytime that Vegas comes through and says, hey, it's a 12.5 point difference, and you have a 12.5 point advantage, you're looking at this like it's going to be a big game and you're potentially going to win by more than. And that's what the 49ers did. And, Josh brings up this, and what's up to my guy Josh in chat, says run defense is atrocious. It definitely wasn't good today. And it's been interesting to watch the 49ers over the last 4 weeks be willing to give up something. If you go back to Arizona, they're willing to give up the passing game, and they allowed Jacoby Brissett to throw for a lot of yards, but it didn't really materialize in threatening them in the game. And then against the Cleveland Browns a couple weeks ago, it was the running game again that got going. You look at the numbers, you're like, man, they rushed for over 130 yards, but the 49ers were able to hold them under 10 points. And then you look at the box score again this week, and like, wow, 136 yards on the ground, over a 6-yard average. You're right. It's impressive. I do think that the 49ers defense is needing some help at linebacker. I honestly believe that. I don't think the Jordan Elliott injury before the game helped. I don't think missing Samuel Kuwanu is really helping this football team. They definitely could use some of these guys that are missing right now. So I think that that's part of it. I also believe that there are also certain times where the 49ers are willing. If you go back and you look at the fourth quarter when Tennessee's kind of reeling off some big runs, I'm not saying they weren't early in the game, but just another time you look at the situation and it's like, oh, they're reeling off big runs, but it's the time you're going to allow them to run the ball. You got Keon White out there. You got the NASCAR unit out there, and you're saying, yeah, you want to run the ball, you want to use the clock, that's okay. We have a 3-score advantage. So I think that also plays into it a lot. Now, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. And David Campbell in the chat says, Defense had a rough game. Run D was pathetic. Secondary was below average. Yeah, it's interesting because I felt like the defense had the two drives that were really good, right? The opening drive of the game, 3 and out, and then the opening drive of the second half, 3 and out. I thought those were extremely pivotal to the 49ers' success, especially early in this game. And then in between, it was kind of up and down. And I think that's the best way to describe it. And so, yeah, I agree. It was a tough game for the defense. But once again, you look up in the middle of the third quarter, or it was right when Brock Purdy had the strip sack, and they only had 10 points. So it's one of those things where the 49ers defense continues to give up yards, but we're pretty successful in the red zone, holding Tennessee kind of at bay. Now, of course, that didn't last because Tennessee ended up getting some things done. But yeah, I don't think the defense looked as good today as it looked against Cleveland or it looked the week before. So I definitely thought it was a tough game for the 49ers. They're going to have to play better against the Indianapolis Colts. They're going to have to play better against the Chicago Bears and ultimately Seattle Seahawks. But that's it. That's what they're going to have to get done. And this is what Josh is saying here. Next 3 games will test this defense in the run game 100%. And I think situational, right? Situationally, it always depends on what happens in the game on things that you're willing to give. And so I think that's going to play it as well. But I mean, Phillip Rivers in that Indianapolis Colts offense, they are going to want to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor. That is exactly the motto that they're going to carry into that game. Jonathan Taylor. 49ers are going to have to prove they can slow down Jonathan Taylor if they're going to be able to win that game. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be something those 3 teams lean on. They're all really good at running the football. They'll have accomplished running games and running backs, and the 49ers are going to have to get it done. And it was tough in this football game for the 49ers. But when you look at the numbers overall, you start looking at some of the team stats, because I always find it interesting. I was very impressed with the 49ers offense in this game. And we got this in chat over here. I want to put it up. Juan says Purdy carried the team today. And I think that you look at the offense, and the offense was really, really good. You had 28 first downs for this 49ers offense. 18 of those were passing through the air. They were willing to throw the football. Brock Purdy was willing to take what was there. And I think that was one of the keys to this game, is just them continuing to do good. And when you look at third down, 49ers were 9 of 15, continuing to be one of the best teams on third down in the entire NFL. And they were 1 of 1 on fourth down. They ran 21 extra plays than the Tennessee Titans in this game. And I thought that that's pivotal. They ran 1 less drive, but still had 21 more plays than them. It was effective offense. 292 yards through the air, 9.1 yards per pass, which means it was some of those intermediate routes that were really working out for the 49ers. Brock was sacked twice. Of course, one of them, the strip sack, which that definitely stunk, because I thought that turned the momentum of the game a little bit towards the Tennessee Titans' favor. But when you look at some of the things they were able to do in the passing game, it was really phenomenal. And normally this offense runs completely through George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, even in the passing game. But that wasn't the case here. I mean, George Kittle still got his, right? George Kittle got 8 catches for 88 yards and the touchdown. And that's 8 catches on 9 targets. And the 9th one, he should have caught, right? Over the middle of the field, hit him in the hands. It would have been a tough catch. But what you saw is the wide receivers getting involved in this game. And it wasn't just one wide receiver like it's been with Jawan Jennings. Even though Jennings did have 2 touchdowns in this game, he had 3 catches and 2 touchdowns. He was phenomenal. But Ricky Pearsall, and this is kind of what we all saw coming, right? The conversation point was Ricky was going to have a big game, and then you have the drop tackle, the hip drop tackle, and it's looking like, oh no, Pearsall's not going to play at all down the stretch. But he did come back, and he looked really good. 6 catches for 96 yards on just 7 targets, including that big explosive over the middle of the field, that deep crosser. That is what the 49ers have been looking for in this offense. Haven't been able to hit recently, but hit it. And he goes for 38 yards on that play. And so what you saw was an offense that was clicking with everybody, right? You had Kittle with 8 catches. Then you had Pearsall with 6. Jennings had 3. Demarcus Robinson had 2 catches for 36 yards. You had Kendrick Bourne. He had 2 catches for 17 yards. And then you had McCaffrey and Juszczyk with 1 each. It was a little bit of a down game for McCaffrey, but it didn't matter because everybody else was rolling. And so I think that is a big part of this game is how well the offense played. The effectiveness of the passing game was huge. And it's not that they weren't able to run the ball either. Christian McCaffrey ran the ball for 73 yards. Brock Purdy used his legs very effectively. He had 44 yards, and then Brian Robinson chimed in with 21. But it wasn't the conventional, we're going to run the ball really well. It was they were finding ways to get it done, and Brock Purdy getting those 44 yards was huge. He had that one big scamper of 26, and that was a big play in this game. So I think that you look at the numbers and you say, hey, you know what, this offense was really rolling. They continued their hot streak on third down. They are the second best offense on second down right now. They were at 48% going into this game. I expect that to climb. In the red zone, they were 4 of 6 scoring touchdowns. Very effective inside the red zone. Now, they did have the one turnover. That was unfortunate. That one was super close. If Brock Purdy can get that ball off a hair earlier, he's got Ricky Pearsall over the middle of the field for a first down and more. But when you look at how the 49ers and the makeup of how they want to win, this is exactly it. They want to get a lead, and they want to lean on it. They want to be able to win the time of possession. They won the time of possession by nearly 15 minutes in this game, nearly a whole quarter of more time spent on offense than the Tennessee Titans. That's how you help your defense out. Was it a great defensive performance? No. I think we saw Renardo Green get beat deep. That wasn't great. We seen Diamond Lenore get beat deep. That was not great. We had 2 opportunities for interceptions for Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa in this game. Both of those they missed. Malik probably had a second opportunity on the deep ball, and he missed that one as well. So I think that there were opportunities there for the 49ers. They weren't able to capitalize on it. And Tommy Huxley comes through with the super chat. Thanks so much, Tommy, for the super chat. I do really appreciate it. Says defense is escapades. It wasn't the best performance, that's for sure. And so I think that that's something they're going to have to get better at. But what have we talked about over the last 4-game winning streak has been 2 of the 3 phases for the 49ers need to win. And today it was special teams and offense. The defense was good enough. And if you win 2 phases, you can win the game. Now, if you want to beat the elite teams, you've got to have all 3 phases clicking. And I don't think that's the case. But I do think that that's because they're continuing to miss players. And, you know, Ryan says this in chat, got to get Bethune back. I think it's pivotal to get Bethune back. I think Okuwanu is pivotal, the way that he plays the run. I think that they've got to get better at setting a firm edge. But continuing down the road of, we need a Tatum Bethune to make some tackles in the running game. I think that would be hugely beneficial. And for that matter, get Eric Kendricks right. That's a big improvement when you're talking about 2 linebackers, is getting those guys back involved. And that could be huge next week against the Colts. Right now, the San Francisco 49ers have opened as a 5.5-point favorite. Next week on Monday night against the Indianapolis Colts, the over-under for that one is 46.5. If you're thinking about betting, bet with FanDuel. So those numbers just came out. 49ers favored on the road on Monday night. That'll tell you everything you need to know about what Vegas thinks of the San Francisco 49ers. And Tommy makes this point, and I think this can't be forgotten. He said, thank God we have Yetur Gross-Matos, Tatum Bethune, and Samo coming back. Right? These are guys who have made an impact on this football team. Before Yetur Gross-Matos went down with injury for a second time, he was one of the top pass rushers in the NFL, generating pressure from the interior of the defensive line. The 49ers could desperately use that again. Tatum Bethune was an absolute tackling machine, and he was making all kinds of tackles for this 49ers team. He's very good against the run. The 49ers are definitely missing that tackling ability. I don't think they've tackled well over the last 2 weeks on defense. And Sam Okuwanu has been a consistent player who's played the edge really well and then been able to bring pressure off the outside. I think having him would be huge as well. So I think Tommy is spot on about what he's expecting. And what's up to my guy Lou, who just entered chat. So, I think that the 49ers right now are looking at winning each game as they need to win it. And I think that this game was interesting especially when it came to the ability to stop the run. Is it got a little bit more interesting during pregame when Jordan Elliott was unable to play. As soon as Jordan Elliott was unable to play, you knew you were going to get more of a rotation from Kevin Givens. This is not what Kevin Givens does. Kevin Givens does not stop the run at a high level. And so that was going to be a big question mark. How much could Alfred Collins and CJ West play and be able to stop the run? And I thought that, most of the runs that were extremely effective were more to the outside, but there were some of those runs that went up the middle. And I thought that the Tennessee Titans offensive guards did a pretty good job of creating some opportunities in the running game. So I do think that this is going to be something that the 49ers are going to have to shore up next week when they play the Indianapolis Colts. They're going to have to slow down the running game of Jonathan Taylor, or they could be in a little bit of, a tough situation. And David brings up this. Pearsall may be injury prone, but he has the best hands I've seen in a while. Yeah, he runs some good routes. And I think it's unfortunate that he had that tackle early on in this game where, he dropped down on his legs. And I was happy to see Pearsall come back in. I don't know what the extent of the injury is going to be, but I thought that he came back in and he did a really good job of creating separations in his routes. So that was really huge. That was a big part of this game. And I think they do need Pearsall. He opens up this offense a little bit. When teams are focused like they are on George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, you need that guy that can create separation and win over the middle of the field. And that's why he had that big catch for 38 yards, because it opened up in the middle of the field with the concept, because of the attention that those linebackers, were having to pay to Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. They had to step up. When they do, right in behind, boom, big time play. So, yeah, Pearsall has done some things, and that's exactly what the 49ers need in this offense right now. They need Juwan Jennings, they need Ricky Pearsall, and then they need contributions from Demarcus Robinson and Kendrick Bourne when the time calls. And I feel like they got that in this game. I thought that everyone kind of showed up when they needed to. Peter says, why do they elevate the Hulk, but he is inactive? So here's the thing. They know certain things are going on when it comes to injuries along the defensive line. Sometimes you elevate guys because you think that there could be something there. You might need them if somebody's going to be a game time decision. So you'll go that direction. It could also be that when you look at the situation moving forward, you have 3 standard elevations for the regular season. And then you have as many elevations as you want inside the playoffs, right? You can elevate 2 guys. Those guys can be elevated the entire time off the practice squad. There's no restrictions. So with that being said, for a young player that's been practicing really hard and earned a lot of opportunities, he's gotten some practice squad player of the week awards. It gives him an opportunity to go through the pregame. It gets him a chance to be in the locker room, but out on the field and prepping before they make a determination. So it kind of gives him a reward for that. I don't think they've planned on playing him at all. I think that they came in with the way that the defense looks right now along the defensive line. They came in this one with 5 defensive linemen on the interior ready to go. Of course, Jordan Elliott inactive, which now you had Kevin Givens, but you weren't going to have 6 defensive linemen active for the interior defensive linemen active for the game. You usually roll with 4, at the most 5. So I didn't think it was ever a realistic chance for him to play, but I think they're kind of just giving him an opportunity to kind of see what things are like. I think they're high on him. And so I do think that they want him involved in the future. And so that's why he's kind of around. Lou says, what's your thoughts on how West played? Something seems off with him, and I can't put my finger on it. Just from the TV copy, I don't know if there's something wrong with him. I know he had a setback, when he had the injury to the hand. I think that did kind of change his trajectory a little bit for the season. I think also a lot of these young players, have been getting used to playing in the NFL and playing this long of a season. So I don't know exactly what's going on with West. I'm looking forward to kind of getting into the coach's film and seeing what he did in this game. But I know that the interior portion of the defensive line didn't have their best game. And I thought that there were some opportunities for some big plays, and they weren't able to make those things happen. But CJ West is a young guy. He's learning. And I think that there were probably bigger expectations on CJ West this season than probably there should have been for a 4th-round pick who was going to step in and be a rotational piece at best. And I think he's done a pretty good job, overall. And, that's clutch because the 49ers are right in the thick of the playoff hunt. When you look at everything, the way it played out in this game, I mean, they still were effective. Now, they did, like I said, they gave up a lot of rush yards. I think if you look at the numbers, that's going to be the big part of this game that's huge. Was that I think the explosive touchdown to Gunnar Helm probably hurts everyone the most. The 2 explosive plays are the ones you can't forgive because you had opportunities to get off the field and you just allowed it to happen. But I do think that they need some help. They need some guys to come back if this team is going to be in prime position. And the 49ers almost got a lot of help from a lot of teams. But just to kind of touch on the playoff picture right now, just a little bit, the Los Angeles Rams were the first team in the NFC to clinch a playoff spot. They will officially be in the playoffs. Now, what that seeding is, we don't know. The Bears just went from number 7 to number 2 today. They won. The Packers lost. Their playoff probability is up to 71%. The Eagles held pat at number 3, being a divisional winner. They're 9-5. So they are probably going to win the division. They have a 95% chance of making the playoffs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because Carolina lost to the New Orleans Saints, they have regained the number 4 seed in the playoffs. They're at 75% at 7-7. Seahawks, their playoff probability is at 99% now that they have 11 wins. 49ers at number 6, they are 98% chance of making the playoffs. And the Green Bay Packers are now at 88%, with the Lions falling under 50% and down to 41%. It looks like it's a 7-team race now. It looks like it's coming down to just who's going to be seated in these certain spots. And it's interesting because the 49ers had a chance today. They could have went to 5, if the Seahawks or Rams would have lost, or as far as number 1. So it was a big day. The games didn't quite go all the way you wanted. Now, Denver did get one thing you needed done. You needed the Packers to lose. Now you're a game up on the Packers. So that's a big part of this, but you still need somebody to fall next week. And now you need the Rams to lose to Seattle. So everyone is rooting for Seattle Seahawks next week in hopes that the week 18 matchup between the 49ers and Seattle Seahawks is for all the marbles, the NFC West Championship and a number 1 seed in the playoffs. It's gonna be fun, And we got this right here from David V. What's up to my guy David V? Says LFG Niners #TCC. Thanks David V. One of the greats here. I think it's going to it's huge. And and this from Peter. No one is going to help. 49ers have and hold their own destiny. 49ers only hold their destiny to one part. And you said just get in the dance, and I agree with that. But it is a situation where someone can help. Seahawks defeating the Los Angeles Rams puts you in a situation where then you control your own destiny. If you win out, you get the number 1 seed. It's just that simple. You play the Chicago Bears, you play the Seattle Seahawks. Those are things you can control. So I get what you're saying, but you definitely can control your own destiny, even as far as seeding, if you get a little help next week. If you don't, and the Rams win, well, you're just playing for seeding, and you might want to be the number 5 seed because that number 5 seed is going to potentially travel to Tampa Bay, which could be a very winnable game. Now, in this game against the Tennessee Titans, the San Francisco 49ers did not get a single sack. And I think that is one of the concerns moving forward is how are they going to generate pass rush? I thought with the Gunnar Helm play down the field, I thought Cam Ward just had too much time. And we've seen Cleveland Farrell produce a lot. We've seen moments where they were getting after him, where it was Alfred Collins or Bryce Huff, but they couldn't get to Cam Ward. And I get it. He's athletic and he can move around. And next week they're going to have a not so mobile target in Phillip Rivers. But this pass rush has got to pick up a little bit. They need Sam Okuwanu. They need Yetur Gross-Matos. they need them bad. If you are going to be a more successful defense, and I do think that that's a portion of this, they're going to have to rush the passer a lot better. I am still excited about the way that they're playing on third down. They only allow third down conversions at 38%. Whatever you want to say about how many yards the 49ers give up on the ground, or that they don't get sacks, they still play well on third down, and they did in this game. 3 of 9 for the Tennessee Titans. Now, make no mistake, the Tennessee Titans, they are just a 29% chance or 29% group at converting. So it wasn't asking a lot for the 49ers to play well, but they've been continuing to play well. They hold teams to 38% or less on third down. So those are things to remember. The other thing they have to do is they have to capitalize on turnover opportunities. And I thought that Malik Mustafa missed 2 opportunities in this game, and Jair Brown missed 1. The 49ers can't miss those opportunities against good football teams. If those teams put the ball near you, you need to be able to make a play. And so those things are going to be huge for the 49ers, is getting after the quarterback and taking advantage of turnovers. And the 49ers lost the turnover battle today. Luckily, they were just a lot more talented than the Tennessee Titans in a lot of categories, and especially offensively, where I felt like this offense really rolled. Brock Purdy looked really good. He looked comfortable. He was making things happen. He was creating with his legs, and then he was finding his receivers down the field. I thought it was great. I thought George Kittle continued to look good as well. So 49ers are setting themselves up for a nice run down the stretch, and this is what they had to do. Now, one more win probably will get the 49ers into the playoffs. So they only need to win one of the next 3. But I think everyone wants to be a little bit selfish here and wants the 49ers to win out and see what it could be. Could it be number 1? Yes. Could it be number 5? Yes. I think the main thing is you want your team rolling down the stretch. So next week, they'll be taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Phillip Rivers is going to be, the quarterback more than likely. And I don't think he played bad, but he didn't play great either. The 49ers have a really good chance of winning that game if they can slow down Jonathan Taylor. And that's a big question mark, but there's opportunities there, and there was unfortunately some tough injuries for some of the competitors around the league. Micah Parsons, he went down. It looks like it's an ACL for Micah Parsons. You had the injury to Devontae Adams. It looks like he's a hamstring. Don't know how significant that was, but the war of attrition is real, especially down the stretch. The playoffs are basically here when it comes to seeding. And so, yeah, this is going to be a tough time, for all these football teams staying healthy, playing well. And it's going to come down the stretch and who can do it. But the good thing is the 49ers win the metrics that they needed to win in this game. They won on third down. They won in the red zone. And that's why they ultimately ended up winning this game. I think they gave up a little bit more points than they wanted, a little bit more success, on the ground than they wanted. And those things really hurt this football team, but they've got an opportunity still. And I think that's what's nice. And you got this from Lou. Brown was very reluctant to close on players and hit the ball carrier a few times today. And we see that come and go with Jair. Sometimes he's explosive. He makes great tackles at the line of scrimmage. And sometimes it doesn't quite click. And he looks a little bit hesitant. I don't know if he's just indecisive. But that's something that he's going to have to figure out because they were missing some tackles. Malik Mustafa missed some tackles in this game. Those are things you can't allow to happen against Jonathan Taylor, or he's going to rumble for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Indianapolis Colts are going to make the 49ers pay a little bit. So those are things that they have to shore up. Hopefully, Tatum Bethune, Sam Okuwanu, Etor Gross-Matos, and Eric Kendricks are all potentially ready to go next week. That could be a huge shot in the arm for this 49ers football team. I think it could pay huge dividends for the team. And, that's one of the frustrating parts about the football is it's a week-to-week matchup thing. So we'll see. We'll see what they're able to do in this one. I'd like to say, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.